Thanks again for the invitation. I'm going to talk mainly about Transwest, but you can't start Transwest until you talk about the starters. And the starters were Cliff Brown and Alex Simpson. Cliff Brown, he started at Crawley on the Catalinas as an apprentice. That was Cliff's background. Alex Simpson, New Zealand Air Force 75 Squadron, many missions, bombing, DFC. He set up Rex Aviation in Sydney, actually put Rex Aviation on the map. The parent company was Rex Aviation New Zealand. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to get hold of Rex Aviation WA, and he had all the experience. Cliff Brown once said to me, "Ted, you can't even start until you've got runs on the board." And those guys had runs on the board. And they were really, I can't say it too much, they were the starters of it all. There's Alex Crew, after he took over Rex Aviation. Cliff was a bit sore about that because he set up Rex Aviation. Cliff just moved on and started Beechcraft, just 2 doors up. Right down the end near the Aero Club was Millard O'Sullivan, and Bib Still came over and bought Millard O'Sullivan, and there he was. He was in the box seat, 1965, everybody started to get into the box seats. It's 1965, that was the first Queen Air that bought. CFI went 24/7, week after week, month after month. We could not believe that that thing could do what it did. And when it got back to Perth, they just put a new crew in it and off it go north again. Amazing. The other player was Bob Oliver with his Murchisons. There's RTA, that's his first aeroplane. Note the tail signage, that was his airline, Southern Airlines, and Bob built a network of airline routes. Side by side, Civils were doing the same thing. Civils had all the areas from Albany, Esperance, etc. And Bob's stamping ground was Mullewa, that's where he grew up. And he went north to Murchison, that's why the name Murchison Air Charter. There's another one of his aeroplanes, that was his second one, a Comanche, and that was another of his early aeroplanes. He was pretty good forward thinking here, Bob. How many people remember the 411? It was, for its day, it was a magnificent aeroplane. Another aeroplane that really put WA Charter on the map was Barons. Barons were everywhere. That was TOE, the first C-55 in WA. They were just so fast. C-55s were the fastest. Empty, they could do 200 knots. MMA, they just missed the boat. They were still thinking Doves and Piaggios. And in January 65, I did an apprenticeship at MMA. Magnificent apprenticeship. So comprehensive, you couldn't have asked for a better apprenticeship anywhere. Gordon Hamilton here joined the same year as me. Got my CPL while I was an apprentice, and the day I finished my apprenticeship I joined Flying Doctor. Flew VH FDM for almost a year. Wow. I'm going to say about the Flying Doctor, Jan in his talk, he was another, same year as me, he started MMA. He was emotional when he talked about the Flying Doctor, and I'd be emotional too when I talked about the Flying Doctor. It was an honour and it was a privilege to be a Flying Doctor pilot. Cessna 336 turned up at Meekatharra one day, on board Alex Simpson and John Ralston. And they were emphatic that they had a better deal than the Flying Doctor. It was John Ralston's idea for Northwest taxis, and for me, no deal. I was not going to move from the Flying Doctor. Anyway, John got started, and by the end of 12 months, I think I'd only got about 200 hours with the Flying Doctor, and as a young fellow, when you wanted hours, and John could promise me as much as I wanted, so I joined John Ralston and Northwest Air Taxis, Carnarvon. John finished up the cash flow problem. Alex bought the company and changed to Transwest. And that Northwest Air Taxis was the beginning of Transwest. Alex was an incredible guy. He started with that little hangar that I showed on the first slide, and he built that company like you wouldn't believe. Cessna agency, flight school, his flight school was Samav. After buying Northwest Air Taxis, he put a hangar in at Carnarvon, put in a flight school, called it Samav. Then he had the Cessna agency, and he was selling airplanes and Cessnas like you wouldn't believe. WA was awash with Cessnas from Alex. That building on the far left was the flight school. They had 30 desks in the flight school. PPL courses were full-time, and they were just churning out PPLs like you wouldn't believe. And the reason they did it was the only way to sell Cessnas was to have PPLs to fly them. Brilliant strategy.
What sort of year is that?
That was 67. He did all of that. So he started in 65, and by 67 he was doing that, and he'd already got Norwest, which was so he had the charter going, and a workshop. He had the biggest parts inventory outside of Wichita for Cessnas. Progressive, incredibly progressive guy. He knew where he was going. And Alex always did things in a grand scale. That was the opening, speeches, VIPs, etc. The whole works. That was the hangar after the extensions. If you look very carefully, on the front right-hand side, you can see a texture change of the roof. That was the original Rex hangar. After Norwest Air Taxis, I moved on. I worked as an aircraft maintenance engineer. I gained a few LAMI licenses and kept myself current as a CPL. And in 1976, I returned to WA and joined Transwest. This is an interesting aside. To gain LAMI licenses, you not only had to pass exams, but you had to have 1202 experience with the dreaded 1202 CASA set schedule. And then it was up to the surveyor to assess whether you were worthy of holding a licence or not from your experience schedule. So, as well as passing exams, I had to get experience. One job was with Brain and Brown air freighters, so I could get my DC-3 engine airframe, and another job was with Hawkers in Bankstown, working in Hangar 14 for the avionics department, where I got my E&I experience, my E&I credits. CPL, I came back to Transwest with about 3,000 hours. My saying is that about 1,000 hours, you're pretty safe. After 1,000 hours, you know it all, and it's starting to get dangerous. And it's by about 3,000 hours you realise you don't know it all, and you're starting to get safe again. 1978 was a crisis. Many of you remember it. Avgas price skyrockets, sometimes no avgas. Piston aircraft not viable. Transwest, 100% piston. Dib Stillwell, he just sacked all his piston engine pilots, closed down this piston engine facility at Jandakot and moved on, but not SkyWest. They had Zhang Fu, the biggest Mercedes outlet in Southeast Asia, bankrollers. So nobody lost their jobs. They were very smart. They got the coastal savannas all the way from Rocky, Cairns, Horn Island, Kununurra. This is the bases they established. Derby, Gelton. So all the 310s went over to Coastwatch. And they even was employing pilots when everybody else was laying off. They put us on notice to change over to turbines in 12 months. They bought 2 Twin Otters, many Beech 200s, and a citation. Can you imagine all of us, all of it known, it was piston engine aeroplanes. The only people was Mel Walder and myself, ex-MMA apprentices, who had a bit of an idea what had to be done to run an airline with turbine aeroplanes. So Mel got plugged into the flying training, and I got plugged into the ground school engineering training. I did all the engineering training for the engineers as well as engineering training for pilots. You have to realise that the citation was a Group 20 airplane, all categories: instruments, electrical, engines, airframe. So the piston engine engineer had to be from here up to here, Group 20. And I did it all. I took them right through. Don't know how I did it, but I did. 12 months, and we did it. And the enthusiasm of everybody in the company was mind-blowing. We all pulled together as a team. And the only reason I can say that we all pulled together as a team is Cliff Brown and Alex Simpson were the starters. Alex Simpson got into a cash flow after about 2 or 3 years for a problem. After about 2 or 3 years, and he had to sell up. He came out with nothing. Then, just to brief rundown of the Perth airport scene. Civils took about 10 years to get into turbines and get to know all about turbines. We only had 12 months. There's CFO, there Merlin that did the Barrow run. CFO name changed to Stillwell. Goob Stillwell changed the name. After he sold all the piston engine aeroplanes, he renamed the company Stillwell, 1978. Then the unthinkable happened. Boys from nowhere, the Sky West mob, they came from nowhere. They won the Wobbett contract with Citations and Beach 200. So it was just, civils didn't have any idea what was coming. The unthinkable, Feb 1980, SkyWest and Transverse merge. SkyWest owner, that was Rick Stowe, he had lots of money, so he bought out Zung Fu, the people that bankrolled us. Then the SkyWest owner buys East West. Bill Meek, some incredible negotiator. He managed to get the WA Interstate Ops approval, and the rest is history. Thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity to talk.